Blog Talk Radio.
Mr. Speaker, it's a rare occasion when the House of Representatives must vote on articles of impeachment against a federal judge. Indeed, the last time this occurred was 20 years ago. However, when evidence emerges that an individual is abusing his judicial office for his own advantage, the integrity of the judicial system becomes compromised, and the House of Representatives has the duty to investigate the matter and take the appropriate actions to end the abuse and restore confidence in the judicial system. It is also rare for the members of the House Judiciary Committee to agree on anything. However, the committee voted unanimously last week to report out House Resolution 520, which contains the 4 articles of impeachment against Judge Kent. This vote came after a thorough investigation and much work by the Task Force on Judicial Impeachment. Specifically, the task force conducted an investigation of Judge Kent's conduct, which included working with the FBI, the Department of Justice, and the Fifth Judicial Circuit. The task force also conducted an investigatory hearing on the matter, at which 2 court employees who were victimized by Judge Kent testified about the extent of his sexual abuse. At that same hearing, we heard from a constitutional scholar who testified that Judge Kent's misconduct rises to the level of impeachable offenses. It is important to note that Judge Kent was invited to testify at the hearing. His attorney was also invited to testify and participate in the hearing. Both declined to attend. As you have already heard in statements today, and as you have already seen in the Judiciary Committee report, Judge Samuel Kent's misconduct merits the serious step of issuing articles of impeachment. The evidence also shows that he lied to the FBI and the Department of Justice about the nature of his sexual misconduct with court employees. In addition, he pled guilty to felony obstruction of justice and to committing repeated acts of non-consensual sexual contact with court employees. He was sentenced to 33 months in prison for committing felony obstruction of justice, and this past Monday he reported to prison and began his prison term.
Ladies and gentlemen of America, this is AJC Radio 2020 Kickoff Show. Tonight, we are back and with force. We're addressing federal judges, state judges behaving badly, namely Federal Judge Christine Arguello in Colorado. Folks, hang on. We take off right now. And I'm Lamont Banks, along with Kendrick Barnes, Sampson Riddle, William Williams, Dennis Merritt, and Cliff Stewart. As tonight we are excited to be back with all of our listeners across the United States and around the globe. And tonight there's no exception to what we must put out tonight as we continue our quest for justice, and that starts tonight, first show of 2020. And our host, thank you for joining us tonight. And as we get ready to get into this discussion regarding Federal Judge Christine Arguello, I'll tell you right now, folks, and I'll say this out the gate, that there are a lot of good judges in this country, a lot of them, that really believe in justice, believe in integrity, believe in honor, and believe in the robe that they wear to administer justice. Let me be clear on that. And we have done programs on this show shining the light on judges that have done remarkable things and continue to this day. So please make no mistake about it. We don't put all judges in one group. And we're going to go ahead and get into discussion. Kendrick, your thoughts as we get ready to go down this road tonight?
I'm just, as a victim of being of under a judge that is ethically challenged, I was surprised as when you look up the subject that there is whole websites dedicated to judges that have been caught with misconduct or even breaking the law. And it's important because a lot of these judges, especially state judges, are able to be voted in or voted out of office. So we also need to, I think, more carefully delve into the integrity of the people that we are electing as judges. And I don't think it should be a political thing. I think even federal judges need to be vetted by the public, and that the public should decide more on who do we sit in these courts and who are they. We see them get affirmed by the Senate, but as the public, we don't know who they are. We don't know their past. And I think a lot of that needs to be vetted out, because some of these people that we put on there are morally bankrupt and really don't need a robe and a gavel.
Well, we're going to go down the path with Christine Arguello tonight. Again, a lot of judges are doing what they do. Our focus tonight will be on Judge Christine Arguello. In the history of advocacy, as long as what our research has brought us, I and others who are in the profession of criminal justice, attorneys that we have talked to, have stated they have never seen the conduct of a judge hit the level of complete bias and hate towards the religious institution and attacks on clergy from the bench. It's unheard of. But we're going to peel it back tonight and let you take a look at Judges Behaving Badly, Part 1, I'll call it, namely Christine Arguello. We'll be right back. This is AJC Radio.
We have a big problem, and we need your help.
It's happening on college campuses, at bars, at parties, even in high schools.
It's happening to our sisters and our daughters,
our wives and our friends.
It's called sexual assault, and it has to stop.
We have to stop it. So listen up.
If she doesn't consent, or if she can't consent, it's rape, it's assault.
It's a crime. It's wrong.
If I saw it happening, I was taught you have to do something about it.
If I saw it happening, I speak up.
If I saw it happening, I'd never blame her. I'd help her.
Because I don't want to be a part of the problem.
I want to be a part of the solution.
We need all of you to be part of the solution. This is about respect. It's about responsibility.
It's up to all of us to put an end to sexual assault. And that starts with you.
Because one is too many.
The criminal justice system has a set of rights created to protect you. But do you think it's really protecting us? You had a right to remain silent, but that really means you had a right to be silenced, doubted, interrogated, suspected. The color of your skin can and will be used against you in the court of law. In their hands, we're incarcerated 5 times more often than white people convicted for the same crimes. You have a right to attorney during questioning. In some states, 80% of criminal defendants can't even afford an attorney. So an overworked public defender controls your fate. One government employee, countless lives at stake. You had a right to be innocent until proven guilty. But somehow, about 47% of the wrongly convicted are black. And if they do prove you're guilty, they're going to write you a run-on sentence, on average 20% longer than white defendants accused of the same crime. Even if you get out, you're still not free. When you're an ex-con, they had a right to deny you a bank account, deny you a mortgage, deny you a job, deny your vote. And if you don't remain perfect, with the smallest slip-up, smallest infraction, the most honest mistake, you're going to join us, the 80% who come back to prison within 5 years, as I did. That's when you realize they didn't bring us here to thrive. They brought us here to build this. The plantation and the prison are actually no different. The past is the present. It ain't no coincidence. This was the plan since abolition, to keep us subjugated by creating this system. But I believe in a different set of rights. The right to stand up and be heard. The right to reform a broken justice system and build a new future. We had the right to be silent. Now it's our right to speak up. Do you understand these rights as I read them to you?
Meeting a teen girl online is actually pretty easy. You can go into any chat room and just start talking. Most of the girls are usually so insecure and desperate for
Attention from older guys is totally flattering. They're so much more mature and understanding than the guys my age.
Age actually works to my advantage. They like to brag to their friends that they're dating an older guy, so I just play along and pretend I'm really interested.
Interested in the same things I am. You can talk forever and really get to know someone without worrying about looks or whatever. That's the best thing about
chatting. Seems unthreatening to them, so they lower their guard. After a while, I start talking about how we're soulmates and how lucky we are to have found each other.
Other people don't understand. I know what I'm doing. If you really care about each other, there's nothing wrong with me.
Meeting them is the goal. Once I get them out of their house, well, that's when things get really interesting.
Online predators know what they're doing. Do you?
I like to eat apples and bananas. I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
1 in 5 children struggles with hunger in America. Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
Do you know anyone who's been sent to prison who's innocent? The United States is experiencing record numbers of exonerations in cases where people were wrongfully convicted of crimes they did not commit. If you believe that no one should be sent to prison for crimes they didn't commit, there is something that you can do today. By remembering a just cause with a monthly, annual, or one-time donation, you can help in the fight against wrongful convictions. Call a just cause at 855-529-4252 or visit a-justcause.com and click the donate button. A Just Cause is a 501c3. Wrongful convictions are wrong. Let's be the voice of those who can't speak from behind the wall.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to AJC Radio tonight as we are addressing an issue regarding federal judge Christine Arguello. The title of this show tonight is part one of a series of judges behaving badly. I made it clear at the onset of this show that we are extremely appreciative of the judges that honor the bench in which they reside. There are a lot of judges out here that do a very, very good job. We've done promotional shows in regards to that, promoting their efforts, their integrity. I have the opportunity here in El Paso County in Colorado to work with some very good judges, and I've seen a great deal of integrity and honor from these judges that I've had the opportunity to encounter and be a part of their court proceedings. So let me be clear on that. I think that there are a lot of good things out there. But tonight it is imperative that we focus on what is wrong with the system. Why are judges doing the things that they do and simply seemingly very easy to get away with it? Tonight we focus on Judge Christine Arguello, a huge attack on a religious institution, a huge attack on people and members of this institution that she has never met, never talked to, a huge attack on its pastor, calling in question the Christianity of a pastor and attacking a church, making outrageous claims that have not been substantiated, that have not even been looked into. How is that possible, and how does that come from a judge? Judge Christine Arguello fits her own mold, if you will. We, as a Just Cause organization, will continue to expose these actions, this behavior, just as we would any judge. or any person that feels like they can supervent the law and do whatever they choose to do. Cliff, as we get into this discussion tonight, I'd like to get your thoughts as we have been back and forth in regards to information that has been released from Judge Arguello's court and the different proceedings and motions that have been filed, that the untruth and the outrageous conduct and things that are being said by this judge clearly crossed the line. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, the thing, I think that obviously a judge making the type of comments that Judge Arguello's made from the bench against a church, against a pastor that she knows nothing about, that she has no idea about, never been to the church, never talked to this pastor one-on-one. But the thing that really gets you is that then this judge is allowed to take those proceedings and seal them. And then when ordered by the higher court, the appellate court, to say you must unseal those in the best interest of the public, to unseal those records, the judge ignores that mandate from the court. Those are the type of things, to Ken's point earlier, that we as the public have to say that is not acceptable. A judge that's been put in place, these judges get put in, these federal judges, with life appointments, and nobody can take them down unless they have to almost kill somebody to be taken off the bench. And that needs to be changed. That is the reason that the American Constitution came into place, was because of the absolutism of the of other governments. That's the reason that we came up with a government supposedly by the people, for the people, with all that. But judges still are in the position that they're put on the court for life. They say what they want to say. And then in the case of Judge Christine Arguello, she's told by the higher court, given a mandate, and still refuses to follow as far as unsealing those records. Those are the type of things that we as the public cannot stand for, and that we have to look at in a broad picture, that if she does it once and gets away with it, what happens the next time that she does it? What happens when she's, like she did in the IRP Solutions case, throwing people in prison that committed no crime, giving outrageous sentences to people that committed no crime. These are the things that we must fight. We must put everything into it and say that we will not stand for judges with this type of behavior.
Well, the problem is that if you let this judge get away with this, who else will be the victim of this type of bias? We've said from the beginning of this show and this program, since AJC started, it was about the wrongful conviction of these 6 men, known now as the IRP 5. The conduct during the case is where this judge crossed the line. It was clear. The appellate court even went as far as to say they were concerned. The higher court was concerned about her particular opinion towards white-collar crime, that they saw a pattern here. This was something that was a record. But yet they still allow this judge to occupy the bench and continue these issues of abuse. You cannot say in one breath, we are concerned about the attitude and actions of this judge that has been noted, but let her remain on the bench to continue to preside over cases and over the lives of people that come before her. That is a complete contradiction. It is our job as advocates to address these issues. They're never going to be not dealt with or discussed, because it renders injustice every single time. And now you have a situation where you have a pastor in a community totally above reproach for 38 years. Listen to that. 38 years above reproach. And you have a judge that decides, because she does not like this pastor based upon false statements and issues, that she showed true bias against this church and its pastor from day one, from the time the trial started. From the time proceedings started, she had an issue. At that point, you are more than in a situation to recuse yourself. Period. And the pattern of abuse continued over and over and over again. So this is not a small thing. This is a big deal. And when you attack the reputation of a church and its pastor, after we know in the community, this particular church and pastor are involved in outreach programs across the city. They are involved with helping veterans. They're involved with helping the elderly. They're involved with helping the homeless. They're involved with helping those less fortunate to find a way out and to find hope. And you have a federal judge sitting on a bench attacking this type of good. It is unacceptable. We will call it out because it's not your job. You've never been to one service. Exactly. You never had one conversation with that pastor.
And let's not forget, that is illegal.
Yes.
You are a federal judge. You are bound by the Constitution. The Constitution protects religious freedom, but it also protects that the government can't take a side on one religion or not.
They're not supposed to.
They're not supposed to.
Either.
You are supposed to follow the law and respect the person's religious rights. But even farther, as you were saying, if you've never attended a service at the Colorado Springs Fellowship, heard Sister Rose, Pastor Rose preach, I don't know if you ever came to Colorado Springs. I don't know. How do you have the right to opine? And plus, it's against the law. This is public record. How is this judge allowed to stay on the bench and get away with this? And that's the point. It's an outrage even beyond that. Hey, that's a public concern, but it's against the law. It's illegal. And who made a judge above the law?
Well, it's unethical to be able to be. That's why they say justice is supposed to be blind.
That's right. Yep.
Supposed to be blind.
That's right.
A judge serves only as a referee in proceedings. Believe it or not, that's what his or her role is. You are to referee and ensure fairness on both sides of the courtroom. That is your job. You oversee the conduct going on in a court, and you ensure fairness for both sides. Not the case with the IRP 6 case, not the case with these men. And I'll tell you right now, it has to be talked about, and it has to be condemned from every advocate, every person that believes in justice, every person that believes in the Constitution of the United States of fairness that is entitled to every citizen under the law. Everyone should be crying out about it. Everyone should speak out about it. And you find that most people don't cry out against anything until it visits their front door.
It's true.
I'm going to tell you right now, this ain't something we're speculating about. Oh, we're just taking a guess. Oh, we're just thinking this or thinking that. This is not any type of opinion. These are facts stated in this case in words by Christine Arguello. These are the words that came out of her mouth.
And that she tried to cover up, too. So let's not forget that.
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
We'll get to that. But this is what we're talking about judges behaving badly, doing things that are just unacceptable, and that's something that we have to address. We have to deal with it, and we're going to deal with it. William, your thoughts?
No, I was sitting there thinking, the most dangerous thing about this is when you have a judge that offers and poisons the whole scenario, the whole scene, and the court setting with their own bias and opinion. They're able to really steer the case in the direction that they want. And we know that happened in this case. They're able to, apply different rules to one side versus the other, allow evidence to be presented by one side and not the other, and allow basically the case to be led in that direction to an outcome that they want, that they desire. And so we saw it here. And as you see this, as we talk about this, that's what people need to understand. These people, once they offer their opinion into the court, everything's off. Because like you said, Lamont, justice is supposed to be blind. When we see that statue, the statue is there blindfolded. However, what we're talking about is when judges that sit on the bench, they are able to basically rule unchecked and do whatever they want to do, offer their opinions, offer their insight, and that's what Judge Christine Arguello did. And that's what's so dangerous about this situation, and people need to wake up to it.
Samson, your thoughts?
Well, no, I mean, I can completely agree and want to resound what William was saying, but also to go back to what Cliff had mentioned about, these people just like getting these lifelong seats and everything else like that, but they do so with like we've been touching on already, these ulterior motives, and they can't even, uphold the oath that each one of them they take whenever they first put on that robe, whenever they first get their seat. They will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all their duties. The fact of the matter is when you have an ulterior motive, when you have your own agenda, like Judge Aguayo and many others across this nation have done, then justice is skewed. Justice is no longer blind. Justice is no longer holding the scales fair and balanced as it's supposed to be done. Now it's being weighted by, who's going to line my pockets? Who's, my buddy that's over here in a corner? What do I want to have happen? Or where am I connected somewhere down the road or within this system? Now we can't have true justice, as was the case for the men of the IRP solutions. Now we have men that have been behind bars for over 7 years now, 3 that are still, in Florence, Colorado, that are still fighting, and we're still fighting right alongside them day and night to get them justice, because one crooked judge decided that she wanted to try and throw her clout around against not only, these men, but against, like you mentioned, a pastor who is not a participant in the case whatsoever, a church, the same thing, and it's completely immoral and unethical, and she just doesn't live up to the standards she's supposed to uphold.
Well, at the end of the day, that is something that has to be looked at. We're going to be sharing with you tonight 3 different press releases that went out on this issue with judges behaving badly, Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3. We are going to get a discussion and in the facts that speak to exactly the conduct of this judge. We're going to take a quick break, folks. Come back with us. Feel free to dial in. If you'd like to, we're going to give you that information momentarily. Dennis, I think you had a comment. What was it?
Yeah, I was just going to say that when a judge, like you were talking earlier about being a referee, when the judge takes a side, can you imagine being in a game where that referee is only for that one team? That's pretty bad. And I mean, there's no way to win because all the calls go against you. And that's so sad about this judge. This judge did just that. Took a side and then steered it in such a way that the jurors could come back with only a guilty verdict. They had no other choice. They didn't have the information that they needed because she wouldn't allow it. So stuff like this has to be stopped, and I agree so much with each and every one that has spoken out about term limits. There's got to be, there has to be accountability, and there has to be, if you do something wrong, you pay. If you're wrong, you pay. Regardless of how you look at it, until we hold them accountable, judges will continue to use their position for power.
We're going to get into some more detail of that here momentarily. Again, folks, feel free to dial into the show tonight, 646-200-0628, 646-200-0628. Coming up, part 1 of the press release that went out some weeks ago, federal judges behaving badly, abuse from the bench. We're going to go over that right after this. This is AJC Radio. We'll be right back.
I've been getting mixed messages about women and violence. I need a little clarification.
Uncle Bill, how am I supposed to grow up to respect women when I have such lousy role models?
Boys are never going to approach you.
Can you help me reshape my attitude towards women?
You need to teach them that violence against women is wrong.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I ask you a question? Did you know that there are over 2.4 million people behind bars in the United States? I'll ask you one more question. Were you aware that that is the highest number of people behind bars in the entire world? The United States makes up of only 5% of the world's population, but we have over 25% of the world's prison population. America prides itself on being the most advanced and progressive nation on earth. However, sadly, we are also the world's most archaic. I'm going to give you a personal invitation to get involved with the fight against mass incarceration. take a few moments to call 1-855-529-4252. That is a Just Cause. And we fight for justice. Again, call a Just Cause today. Don't delay. Call 1-855-529-4252. It is time, and I say high time, that we take America's incarceration seriously. Won't you join us? Call today.
I can solve difficult problems for a Fortune 500 company.
I can run a successful business.
I can manage your home improvements.
I can publicize your message.
I can motivate your audience.
I can put my military experience to work for your company.
I can teach your children.
I can boost your bottom line.
I can add value to your workplace.
I could be a loyal and productive employee.
But I can't put my skills to work for your organization
if I'm not given the opportunity.
If you don't recognize my talents and ability.
If you don't hire me.
If you don't have an open mind and a workplace that's open to everyone.
If you don't realize that America works best when everybody works.
What can you do?
What can you do?
What can you do?
You can remember that it worked.
It's what people can do.
It's what people can do that matters.
Nearly 50 million Americans have disabilities. Capitalize on their talents with employment practices that benefit everyone. Learn more at whatcanyoudocampaign.org.
Over 1 million people are sitting in the prisons of America for nonviolent offenses. That's why I'm asking you to join the American Civil Liberties Union and help us in the fight to end mass incarceration. We spend over $80 billion a year incarcerating people. Alternatives to prison, like community service, drug treatment, and rehabilitation, costs less and can turn lives around. It's time for fair justice. It's time for smart justice. And we need your help.
And welcome back in, folks, to AJC Radio tonight. I'm Lamont Banks, along with our entire team here tonight on AJC Radio, addressing some issues that are critically important that we make public. And that's why this show tonight is critically important, that we address the conduct of judges and the abuse happening from the bench of courts all across this country. Tonight we focus in on federal judge Christine Arguello, who has, you know, there's a saying that they say that, you know, someone has crossed the line. That is normally stated in a singular sense. And the case regarding Christine Arguello, we've run out of room on the lines that have been crossed by this judge. The conduct of this judge has been horrific. Not only did her actions result in the wrongful conviction of 6 innocent men, but her latest crossing of the line came at a habeas hearing at the request of former RP6 Gary Walker and disgruntled members of Colorado Springs Fellowship Church, a handful, maybe 6 or 7, that were disgruntled, had no problem running into a judge's chambers, or courtroom rather, and making statements that are simply untrue. We would like to believe that a judge sitting on the bench has more maturity, more insight to see that this is not something that would be allowed in any courtroom, especially under the heading of habeas. But to join in with disgruntled members and to opine on the religious practices of an institution is beyond words of how that is even allowed in a courtroom. And as Kendrick alluded to earlier, the attempt to cover it up, to move quickly to cover it up. I don't have to seal anything if I'm above the law. The extreme circumstances of sealing proceedings came out of in the early years when organized crime was in place, and they were there to protect witnesses from the mob. Therefore, testimonies and things were sealed that identities of people would not be released because their life was in imminent danger by organized crime. That's where that came from. This judge is not even remotely in the area to seal records because none of that is in place here. None of that is in play. So we had talked about before the statement made, one of the statements made by Gary Walker was that he feared for his safety and the safety of others. The judge goes ahead and claims that to be fact and says we're worried about the danger of the folks that testified. That is a blatant lie. And if the judge, if you're listening tonight, if you can provide one shred of evidence of a police record, a statement or a complaint that was filed against any member of Colorado Springs Fellowship Church, we'd like to see it. Saying that they were threatened. Well, I can tell you, AJC has done their homework. There is no such document. There is no such complaint. And to counter that again, Mr. Walker made an attempt before to bring things to the home of one of the parishioners. And if he was in fear of his life, why are you there? It just does not add up. And folks want to just turn a deaf ear to that. Oh, well, that doesn't matter. Oh, it does matter. Because this comes from a federal judge. And she bought into the lie because that's what she wanted to do. Why is the effort so strong to keep silent, to keep records sealed? Why is that? On our trip to Washington, D.C., recently, a few months ago, members of Congress and their staff made the statement that this judge is hiding something. It's clear to them. These are attorneys, these are legal minds saying, this doesn't add up. You got something to hide. Well, the high court said, unseal the record. Unseal it, they have a right to have it. Colorado Springs Fellowship Church has a right to defend their reputation and to counter the lies that have been told in regards to this case. And I'll tell you what, it's going to happen, and we will continue to press until it does. What is in those statements, in those proceedings that are of such horrific nature that these steps have been taken to hide it?
And that's the thing. You know, the things that have been said in there that the judge is most afraid about are the words that she spoke in those proceedings. That's why she doesn't want to have it unsealed. She claims, oh, it's about the safety of the people who came in and spoke. It is about what she said on that bench about a member of the clergy, about a church, and she knows that has no place coming from the bench. She has no right to make any statement about a person's religious belief, their religious activity. That is not her place as a judge, and that is what she is afraid of getting out into the public view.
And let me share this with you from Federal Judges Behaving Badly. Part 3 actually speaks a little bit to this issue. Judge continues to conceal records of her religious bias in violation of the Supreme Court. This is in regards to Judge Arguello. Secrecy of judicial action can only breed ignorance and distrust of courts and suspicion concerning the competence and impartiality of judges. U.S. Supreme Court Justice Louis F. Powell Jr. states, "It is no secret that in the United States, criminal and civil trials are public. Federal judges are keenly aware that the U.S. Supreme Court says that what transpires in a courtroom is public property, and that court proceedings should only be sealed in the rarest of circumstances, such as the compelling interest of protecting the privacy of child rape victims, to protect business trade secrets, or to protect a government confidential informant whose life will be in danger if their identity or testimony is made public." So why does federal judge Christine Arguello continue violating the law by concealing virtually every record from a court proceeding after the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals vacated her sealing order on January 23, 2019, and instructed her to properly apply the law to ensure the public can view court records, because court records will show Judge Arguello improperly used the court to promote her spite, possibly hatred, against Colorado Springs Pastor Rose Banks, as well as to promote a public scandal against the Colorado Springs Fellowship Church, which Pastor Banks founded and has pastored for 38 years. 38 years. And how true is that? The Supreme Court says that can only happen in the rarest of circumstances. So if the Supreme Court states that, then why does the judge continue to violate the law?
She thinks she's above the law. That's the problem. Somebody's going to have to do something. And when you violate an order from a higher, judge, there's a problem. There's a big problem, and somebody needs to say, no, you are going to give up. You're going to unseal those documents now, and they need to be straightforward about it. They can't just sit back and let her feel that she can do whatever she wants to do.
Well, if you send that message, see, people primarily are intimidated by the federal government. So it puts you in a position where people are scared to speak out. They're scared to speak out. You're talking about a federal judge.
Yeah, and in my view, the message is already sent. The issue is, why is it taking so long to get this action corrected? This is clearly wrong. If a higher court tells the lower court to do something, that is law. They must do it. If the court tells a citizen of this country to do something, that is law. You must do it. If I was ordered by the court as a citizen on the street to appear, I have to appear or I face jail time. If I get a search warrant or a subpoena, I have to follow what that search warrant says, the subpoena says. I have to follow the law. We say that no one is above the law and that this is a country ruled by law, not by a man or a person. We allow the law to be created by Congress, our representatives, and we all agree from judges to people on the street that we're going to follow that law. Why is it taking so long for a judge who's supposed to say, I am the protector of the law? Why does it take so long for you to follow a simple directive, unseal records, that not just for the benefit of the Colorado Springs Fellowship Church and the pastor that was mentioned, but that's general for the public. Everyone has a right to see what went on in this court proceeding. So how are you able to ignore for this long, totally deny the law, and sit back like, well, you know what, nothing will ever happen? And why is it so difficult to say, you know what, well, someone needs to step in and say, you're breaking the law, and how can you tell me to follow the law and you're breaking it? Exactly. That makes no sense to me.
And you know what, Ken, that is called contempt of court. And if you are in a courtroom or you get an order from a court and that judge tells you to do something and you don't do it, that's contempt of court. Contempt of court, you are going to jail right now. It's not, oh, well, the court is going to put in a motion to say what type of quote-unquote sanctions should be brought against you. The court is not arguing with you or writing you a letter and saying, well, I told you to do this, citizen so-and-so. Why haven't you done it? There is no arbitration in contempt of court. You contempt the court, meaning you disobeyed, you disrespected a judge, the law, the court. You are going to jail right then. Why is that same standard not held to when it comes to a judge? She can write a letter and say, well, I know you told me what to do and you gave me a mandate, but I feel like higher court, you have to be wrong because the way I'm looking at it is a different way. That does not matter. If a citizen, if you get a mandate from the court as a citizen and you say, well, guess what, judge? I think the way that I look at it is the right way. You are going to jail. This judge belongs in jail for contempt of the higher court.
Oh, for sure. Those are things that we pay attention to. Let me be clear that the court proceeding in question here that we're discussing right now concerns convicted felon Gary L. Walker, who in 2011 was convicted in Judge Arguello's court of conspiring to commit mail-in wire fraud for two companies, IRP Solutions Corp. and Leading Team, where he served as president and CEO. Arguello sentenced Walker to 11 years in prison, according to the government's opposition brief. In 2017, Walker, who at the time was Pastor Banks' son-in-law of 30 years, asked Judge Arguello to free him from prison on a new claim that he had only committed crimes because he was under a religious spell. A pastor of Pastor Banks, which was filed publicly but subsequently sealed by Judge Arguello after chastising the government. Any self-respecting judge would have sent Walker packing with his hocus-pocus religious spell claim because it had absolutely nothing to do with Walker's conviction or sentencing. But Judge Arguello apparently harbored too much bias against Pastor Banks to dismiss the golden opportunity Walker provided her to publicly vilify Pastor Banks and damage her and Colorado Springs Fellowship's reputation. The cowardly CEO Walker claimed he was just a lowly software developer and blamed his wife and mother-in-law for running his companies and committing crimes of which he was convicted, but claimed he was innocent of for 10 years. I am absolutely sickened that Gary would engage in such a despicable, cowardly act and disgusted that Judge Arguello used a federal court as her personal star chamber to personally attack this pastor. I mean, look, we have clear video, audio, and written information of Gary Walker stating he is the CEO of the company. We have him in his closing arguments at the first trial stating, I am Gary Walker, the CEO of IRP Solutions. And we have done absolutely nothing wrong here. All of this is on the record. And in which, really quick, Ken, I'll come to you. Where the judge who attended these proceedings and presided heard Gary Walker make these statements. And she, in return, allows this. If anything, Gary could have been charged with perjury because his statements are clearly untrue. Well, let me be clear. This information and this software did not come from one vision. Let me be clear on that. Gary Walker was not the sole person who had this vision. It was all 6 of these men, each of them individually. Without each other, there is no software.
That's true.
Let me be clear on that. Mr. Walker wasn't this king of the hill that did all this on his own and his vision was this. That is not the case. The vision came from 6 men that came together and said, I need you, you need me, and together, with our individual skills, we will make this software happen. That is how that software was created. Let me be clear on that. But for Gary Walker to say he was not CEO, he was not a partner with these other men that worked together night and day on this software is an absolute lie. And that's not going to change. I have heard the stories of in the middle of the night work going on from sun up to sun up. No sleep at times, trying to save a nation from the next terrorist attack that would plague this nation. 9/11 was enough to inspire in the hearts of these men that we need to do something, and we need to do something well to protect this country. Not only for our children, but their children, of what lies ahead. So the vision of IRP Solutions is a collective vision. It's collective. Am I right on that, William?
You're absolutely right. I mean, it was the lot that went into it. All the guys contributed and were driving forces behind getting that software up and going. David Zappolo, Clint, you watch them all giving presentations about the software, all of them. getting requirements, contributing to it. It was a team effort. It was all their efforts. Everybody was contributing. Everybody had the vision and could see it and poured their heart and soul into it. They really did. And so it's just amazing to sit back and think that he went into the courtroom and basically spun this tale and walked away.
Sure. We're going to get back into this, folks, a little further. Again, feel free to join us in conversation. And we're going to be right back. This is AJC Radio. What are we discussing? The topic, federal judges behaving badly, focusing really on one judge right now tonight, and that's Federal Judge Christine Arguello. The story and the plot thickens. We'll be right back. This is AJC Radio.
Picture this, a 75-year-old man convicted of murder, waiting for his trial to finally go through. He's been on death row for 25 years now and finds out he's been wrongfully convicted and is completely innocent. Not only does this mean that 25 years of his life have been spent in jail for no reason, but that the actual murderer could still be out there right now. The bad thing is that this exact thing happens more often than you think, but you can help stop it by supporting our campaign to abolish the death penalty.
Almost every day in the news, we hear stories about innocent people who are returning home after spending years in prison for crimes they did not commit. What you may not know is that their problems don't end once the limelight fades. For many wrongfully convicted individuals don't receive a penny for the injustice that they faced. Take the case of Floyd Bledsoe. He spent 16 years in a Kansas prison for murder and rape he did not commit. And while Floyd was eventually exonerated, he lost everything. His family, his farm, and decades worth of income. Unfortunately, Floyd's story is not unique. Kansas, along with 17 other states, doesn't have a law to compensate wrongfully convicted individuals for the injustices they've suffered. And in states with compensation laws, many of those are woefully inadequate. We owe it to all the men and women in all 50 states to provide fair compensation to those who've suffered these injustices. Join me in urging our lawmakers to do the right thing by the wrongfully convicted. Go to innocenceproject.org to find out how you can help.
For a kid whose mom or dad is in prison, life is tough. Now add a wrongful conviction to that, life just got a little bit tougher. Trying to explain to friends why mom or dad is not at the school play or at the ball game is something that no kid should ever be faced with, especially if mom or dad is innocent. Ladies and gentlemen, get involved today to stop the epidemic of wrongful convictions by remembering a just cause with a monthly, annual, or one-time donation. You can help in the fight against wrongful convictions. Call a Just Cause today. 1-855-529-4252. We seek justice for the children as they go to bed at night and mom's not there, dad's not in the other room to make them feel safe. Not because dad or mom did anything wrong, because justice could not be found. Join us for the children, for they truly are our future.
We know you care. Now it's time. Time to change the face of justice.
Did you know that minority and youth participation in juries is extremely low to non-existent?
The incidence of youth and minority offenders faced with trials have exploded.
Youth and minorities are not being represented as they should be.
We must represent for people to get fair trials.
If you acquire a state ID or driver's license, it allows you to register to vote, and it allows you to become eligible for jury service.
If you're 18, a U.S. citizen with a state ID or driver's license, and registered to vote, you're eligible to be called for jury duty.
If called and selected, make it your duty to serve.
We can't get justice without you. Change
the face of justice.
Check your local county or state jury service website for further details.
No, I take that I have not read the transcripts of that case, but I am familiar with the legal issue on appeal, and I know that it is almost unheard of that there would be a missing transcript of a very important colloquy between a defendant and the court. In the ordinary course of things, if the transcript is missing, the judge should order a new trial or otherwise set aside the conviction, or not go any further in the case. But I do know that issue is most unusual. You would ordinarily allow for, say, 6 months for the record to be filed and the briefs to be filed, and after that point, I don't see any excuse for the delay in disposing of the case. But there is obvious explanation for the extraordinary delay that there has been in the processing of the case. Now, as for the proffer to the United States Attorney, you have to understand that prosecutors have almost unbridled discretion. And while you would think that if I'm indicted and I am innocent and I want to present to the prosecutor the evidence which establishes my innocence, you would think that the prosecutor would be willing to entertain it. You would expect that. And I understand that this missing transcript bears on the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination and some indication by the judge that she was about to wrap up the case, the defendant's case, and that is very crucial type evidence. And if there's no transcript showing exactly what happened, the conviction should be reversed. Assuming compliance with the discovery orders, I don't understand how that kind of expert evidence would have been excluded. The short answer to the question is yes, the judge had the discretion to continue the trial. And ordinarily, when the government has so grossly overestimated the trial time and there are out-of-state witnesses for the defendant, a judge would continue the trial for at least a day to allow the defendants to get their witnesses to testify at the trial. Yeah, the judge has it in her discretion to continue the trial. And actually, discretion can be abused. And if it is that the judge insisted on the defendants putting on a witness the same afternoon that the government rested its case, ordinarily that would be an abuse of discretion. Yeah, I certainly hope that justice will prevail, and I don't see how the Court of Appeals could do anything other than reverse and remand for a new trial or dismissal of the charges.
And welcome back in, ladies and gentlemen, to AJC Radio. As tonight we are in discussion and dissecting, if you will, the acts and conduct of Federal Judge Christine Arguello. And I'll tell you, this is definitely part one of the series of this show as we begin to peel back and show the public exactly the horrific conduct that took place by this judge. And, Cliff, I think we got a caller in queue.
Yes, we actually have Pastor Rose Banks is on the line, has a comment. Pastor, you're live.
Yes, thank you for taking my call. As I am so glad that Just Cause is addressing the issues at hand. It's such a horrible thing to have happened. And I remember teaching my children that our justice system was something that they have to respect God first of all, respect that, and do the right thing. They'll never have to ever be involved with going to prison. My son said to me one time, somebody asked him, David Banks, do you think you'd ever go to jail? He said, no, I never go to prison. I'm never going to do anything to go. He asked me one day, he said, how in the world do you do the right thing and then they put you in prison for doing something good? Gary Walker is a disgrace to the human race. I have seen a lot of liars in my time. Believe me, I've seen a lot of them. This liar, he is king of lies. I mean, the things he said, this man knows the whole time he's in our family. He knows our family. He knows me. He knows no such thing ever took place with no brainwashing or he was under some spell. This man is a horrific liar, and he knows he's lying. I think that's the comfort I get out of all this, is that all the lies he told, he know they're lies. You cannot have any type of conscience at all and not recognize that, and that's going to be with him forever. He'll never get past that. Because the lies he told on our church, on me, on the guys, I think about what kind of traitor are you? If anybody should go to prison for being a traitor, it should be you. You know, and when I think about him lying, saying he wanted everything sealed so that he wouldn't be in danger, or his family, if his family stopped lying, they would never have to fear danger. We don't cause anybody anything. A lot of things have been said about me in this community that's not true. And not one person can say Sister Rose came after them. Not true. Our church members don't go after anybody. If anything, they're forever approaching our members in the community, trying to get them to talk to them or whatever. I told them, I said, they already accused us of threatening people and all this stuff. Just keep going. Don't even worry about speaking. Just keep going. But you know what? He told so many lies. Only God in heaven could keep a record of that many lies. But you know what? What's even the greater tragedy is that you go into an open court and try to destroy our church and try to destroy this pastor, which you can never succeed at. At the end of the day, truth always wins out. And so I know who I am. The church knows who I am after 38 years. And there's not a church on the planet that don't have disgruntled members that walk out because they don't like something you said or something that was done. That's why you have lots of churches in this country. You can go to anyone you want to. We abide by the rules of the Bible, and I see to it those things are carried out with us as members. And even myself as a pastor, I live by those rules. So for them to be disgruntled with me over whatever reason, and I don't really care. The bottom line is that's why the door was open for you to go out of. But for Gary Walker to be married to my daughter, who I wish if I could change that and not let him into my family with what he'd done to my daughter and my grandson, I hardly call him a father. He had the nerve to tell all those lies on us in court and then say, I might end up losing my wife and my son. Are you kidding me? Did you really think that my daughter would stay with you? That was her decision. My daughter wanted to divorce him before he ever got out of prison for the things he was saying. And I said, no, why don't you wait and give your marriage a chance? And he said, just wait a bit. He's upset, he's in prison, whatever. But you know what? She was absolutely right to divorce him. She said, Mama, he's the traitor of all traitors. How could you lie on my mom and our family? And how in the world could you throw the men who were committed to helping you and y'all work together to make a dream come true? She said, Mama, how could he possibly have thrown those men under the bus and then dumped my daughter under there with them? You are the most sickest person. If anybody should have their head examined, it should be you. Because only a sick person can tell the lies and the untruths that you have told. But I am convinced, as long as God is on the throne, you're not going to have any peace of mind after what you've done. You may say, oh, I feel fine. Oh, no, you don't. But for as you're thinking that anybody in this church had your life in danger, you know that's an outright lie. You know of all the people in 30 years in this community that have went out and lied on me and lied on the church, how many of them can you name that the church went after? You name one. You are a horrific liar. And then his mom is putting out there basically that I harassed her. I had few conversations with this woman. Never had hardly any conversations with her. But her son was the one who had the issue with his own mom and dad and came back and told us he's never going to talk to him again because they both were liars. Those were his direct words. We don't lie on people. We tell the truth. And then when I called his mom and I said, well, Gary's upset. He said he came over there and he didn't want to come back anymore. I said, you think we all could sit down together and talk so that we don't have this dissension or division between him and Kyle, his grandson? I said, you think we could talk? His daddy spoke up to me and said, we don't want to talk to you. I said, okay. I just thought maybe in some way if I could be of help, I wanted to. There's never been a word of harassment to any of those people, ever. And you know what? I know in time, and God is the one that's in control of it, Gary Walker and every other person that went to that courtroom and lied on Pastor Rose in this church, God's going to take care of it. We don't, that's the good thing about letting God take care of it. We don't have to do anything because the scripture tells us not to do it. Vengeance belongs to God. We don't go out to bring revenge on anybody. So that's an outright lie. We live by what the scripture says. And so for you to say your life was in danger, you knew that was a lie, Gary. You knew it was a lie. And anybody else who sit on that stand and told lies, they know they were lying. What's so sad is that a federal judge would sit there and allow this type of words to come into a courtroom that people are downing a pastor of the church. That had nothing to do with a habeas, had nothing to do with it. Why was it even allowed in the courtroom? You're going to sit there and badmouth me, badmouth our church, but never one time talk to a member of our church, never talk to me. And then on top of that, with all this stuff going on, you just automatically take it up and say Rose Banks is no good, and Rose Banks says, you don't know me. But I sure know who you are because you made yourself very visible. And by the language that you used against me, may God take care of that for me. And he will take care of you, and he will take care of all the rest of them who came in and told deliberate lies, know they were lying. And what's so sad, you're supposed to be as a judge of character. What happened? My God, any judge that's not able to judge character in a person, whether they're lying or telling the truth, they should never be a judge. Because how can you make a just decision if you can't even define when a person is telling a lie or the truth? This is a sad situation. We're never going to stop fighting for our men to be free, and we got so many good pluses going on right now. And it was such an injustice, a horrible injustice. But thank God he is our justice. We know without a doubt he's going to let the truth win out every time. lies will run their course, but the truth will stand forever. You can never do nothing with it. And Gary Walker, the judgment of God, I can't even imagine what it's going to be for the lies he told, knowing our family, knowing my daughter, knowing all the guys that were a part of the IRP-6. He knows these guys. It wasn't somebody that came in and he just met them one day. He knows these guys. They've been together for years. And you throw them under the bus. You are the worst of cowards. I remember you telling me, and I'm getting ready to close on this note, I came to the prison to visit them, and he said, I know one thing, I'm going to get out of this prison, and I don't care what I have to do to get out. Well, you know what, Gary? I never thought you would just throw everybody under the bus. You are the worst kind of coward. You're such a weakling with no backbone whatsoever. I mean, I'm going to shift all this over to my mother-in-law. What a coward you are. And you know well as I know, I didn't run IRP. IRP was put together by the 6 men working together. But you tell a lie and say I was the CEO, really? You know what? You know they're all lies, though. At some point in your life, you're going to have to come face-to-face with that and say, I told lies on them that was not true, because the God that's in heaven, that's on the throne, is going to bring you to that day. That's fine. I don't have to do anything. When you say you feared us, no, you better fear God. We're not the ones to be feared, because we're not going to do anything to anybody, and we haven't in 38 years. Surely, if we were people that would threaten people's lives and come after them and all this stuff, surely it would have been known before 38 years. Gary, may God have mercy on your soul. May He have mercy on your soul. What a tragedy. What did you do with your life? You threw it completely away. That's sad, very sad. I turn it back to y'all. Thanks so much for taking my call.
And thank you, Pastor Banks. I'll tell you right now, folks, look, and those are the words that come from a respected pastor of this community, needing to say what her own heart felt led her to say. William, when you look at that, Pastor Banks has a right to speak out.
Absolutely.
Her character has been attacked by this judge needlessly.
Yes.
Without any type of justification.
Well, this is the thing. I think listeners need to understand that the church nor the pastor were involved in any way. Gary pretty much brought them in, and then the judge kind of chimed in on this. So there was nothing. I mean, the IRP-6, that case, I guess what I'm trying to emphasize is there's a separation there. You know, he brought this in. He accused this, made all these accusations, and the other people that were there. And that's the thing that's so sad. And it allows, you know, you ask and you wonder, well, how did this happen? You know, why do these people, how were they allowed to even come in and like Gary, come in and spin up this tale of saying, you know, this is kind of witchcraft and stuff. And so it's amazing to me, but she has a right, absolutely a right to speak and address these issues when she's being accused, the church has been accused, and the judge has not, you know, to my knowledge, they've never met.
And no, without question, William. And look, these are things that have to be uncovered. They have to be addressed. Just like in any other situation, people are going to let the facts play out to what they are. The facts in this case are clear. Pastor Banks alluded to it. This has nothing to do with a habeas. A habeas is the finding of grave constitutional error in proceedings that were overlooked. Has nothing to do with the opinion of disgruntled members, people that are saying this or saying that. Has nothing to do with the conduct that takes place in a habeas hearing. This is how far gone the bias by Judge Christine Arguello is out there, because she is not even looking at the fact that through her bias and hate for this pastor in this church, that you let a circus go on in your courtroom. And as I was saying there, that these types of behaviors just cannot go unpunished or unaccounted for. If we as citizens in this country are held accountable to a standard when it comes to the law, I am at a loss for words of why that same rule does not apply to those that enforce the law, those that are ministers of the law, if you will, of the criminal justice system, which falls in the hands of judges, of prosecutors, of attorneys, of the higher courts, whether it's the appellate court, whether it's the state Supreme Court, and ultimately the Supreme Court in Washington, D.C. You know, this is something that we're going to discuss further here momentarily. Folks, again, feel free to call into the show. Give us your thoughts on what you think are the things that matter. And Dennis, I'll tell you right now, hopefully, you know, a lot of times people lose hope, if you will, when it comes to the criminal justice system. They believe that when judges at that level do what they do, who can silence them? Who can say, look, is something going to happen here? Does the high court say, look, we take a stand and we honor and uphold the Constitution? Every judge is given an oath to uphold the Constitution. My consensus is that then if that's the case, the higher court in any city, state, wherever, should have the integrity, whether it's your brethren or not, to hold people accountable and hold them to that standard. We're going to discuss that more and deal with a little more regarding Judge Arguello, the bias, the injustice that came from her court will continue to be addressed. This is AJC Radio. We'll be right back.
Of a black police officer who shot and killed a man.
When I first saw the Oscar Grant footage, like a lot of people here in Oakland, I was outraged.
As soon as I heard about it and I went online and I seen what had happened, tears came down my eyes.
Something that was very alarming as a police officer and as a citizen of Oakland.
It was like such a blatant murder.
You have a city in trauma. Anyone that's seen that and looks at it is in trauma.
My hope is that people will express their concern with police brutality, but they will do so in constructive ways that don't include violence.
We cannot perpetrate this cycle of harm and violence in this community.
Because we do have to live here and they terrorize the city and it's only going to make it worse for us.
They killed our young black
You can protest, you can try to make a change, but there is a positive way you can do it.
And make sure we let the police know and that we're aware that stuff ain't right out here. We're trying to fix it. In a way that is about using your voice for justice.
And making Oakland a safer place for everyone to live and get along as one.
Violence is not just.
Violence is not justice.
Violence is not justice.
Violence is not justice.
The United States houses more human beings in prisons than any other country in the world. This is true whether you're counting total numbers or in relation to population size. This wasn't always the case. The number of prisoners in the U.S. began to rise dramatically in the 1970s. So what changed in America compared to other countries? While there are several competing theories, a look at the data reveals that a significant part of the prison growth in the last 40 years has been driven by the war on drugs. Here's the data. By 1980, there were over 315,000 prisoners in state and federal facilities. 57% were violent offenders. 30% were property violators, such as thieves or those convicted of fraud. 5.5% of inmates were in for public order and other miscellaneous offenses. And the remaining 7.5% were nonviolent drug law violators. 10 years later, the drug war had grown, and the total American prison population had more than doubled to over 740,000 inmates. The proportion of offenders in each type of crime had also changed dramatically. The most growth occurred in the nonviolent drug offender population, which grew to a significant 24%. And this last statistic actually understates the influence of the drug war on prison populations. Many studies have shown that drug prohibition causes violent crime by leading to the formation of gangs and cartels. And thus it is safe to say that the number of violent criminals under prohibition is higher than it would otherwise be. From 1990 to 2000, the drug-driven population growth continued. By 2000, the total prison population had almost doubled again to over 1.3 million inmates. And by 2010, the prison population was up to 1.6 million people. The growth has started to settle and even decline in recent years, but the proportions of offenses are retaining their post-1990 levels. America's unique methods of enforcing drug prohibition seem to parallel its unique prison population. And one has to ask, is our country really better off with so many nonviolent drug offenders behind bars? Are drug users likely to be cured from addiction by being locked up? Has locking up dealers and users lessened the demand for drugs? Certainly, the effects on overall usage could not be called a success. And yet we spend billions every year on this war and lock up hundreds of thousands. Surely, there must be a less costly approach to addressing drug use in America.
When does it stop being partly cloudy and start being partly sunny? Why is the word abbreviation so long? Are English muffins just muffins in England? Why is it called a washing line and not a drying line? Do fish get thirsty? If ghosts can walk through doors, why don't they fall through floors? Do you yawn when you sleep? If prunes are dried plums, how do they make prune juice? Why do doctors leave the room when you change? They're going to see you naked anyway. Do bald chefs wear hairnets? How much deeper would the ocean be if all the sponges were taken out? Do you believe someone who says they're a chronic liar? Why is sandwich bread square and sandwich meat round? Life's full of hard questions. Ask one more. You might just save a life.
Equality. I stand for individuality. I stand for peace. I stand for diversity.
I stand for dignity.
I stand for respect. I stand for fairness.
Red, yellow, black, white. We're all the same color.
When you turn out the lights.
I don't have to tell you about the challenges we face every day. That would be like preaching to the choir. Yeah. Today you have a chance to face the challenge of your risk for diabetes. My dad had diabetes, and 1 in 4 U.S. adults are at risk, myself included. If you're older than 45 or African American, that risk increases. So here's a chance to ask yourself, what can I do? Talk to your doctor about getting screened and know what your options are. Learn more at AskScreenKnow.com.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to AJC Radio as we continue our discussion of judges behaving badly and abuse from the bench. Tonight we talk in regards to Federal Judge Christina Arguello out of the 10th Circuit here in Colorado that has done some things that you've heard thus far on this show, and we've only scratched the surface of the circus that took place in her courtroom in a habeas hearing regarding Gary Walker and some disgruntled members of Colorado Springs Fellowship Church, Pastor Rose Banks' impeccable reputation in the community here, 38 years of service in this community, and a huge part of outreach for the community here from people from all walks of life have been affected in a very good way
as a result of the outreach by this ministry, by this church. But with all of that said, Judge Arguelles has gotten on a soapbox to really badger and slander this church, Colorado Springs Fellowship Church, and Pastor Banks. Make no mistake about it, this outrage would be spoken whether it was Colorado Springs Fellowship Church, First Presbyterian, First Catholic, whatever religion, that it will be under fire by this judge would be outrageous. And the just cause would speak to it equally as outraged. And right now, we're going to play a clip for you that was done by Jonah Goldsmith, who gave some comments in regards to the lack of due process for the IRP-5 and some things that just were perception-wise, and to those that were on looking and heard the things that went on even during the trial. So this is something that was ongoing with this judge. It just didn't happen in habeas. This was from day one when these men entered her courtroom. This bias was clearly seen. Let's take a listen.
First on appeal, and I assume there's an appeal pending in this case, but the issue is a due process issue. It seems to me the judge should have entertained their motion for continuance. So these defendants in this IRP 6 case, it sounds like, were the victims of that kind of philosophy, that cases, trials cannot be postponed for any reason whatsoever, unless maybe death of legal counsel or something like that, which wouldn't be relevant here. So I think that's the problem, but I think it was probably prejudicial. I don't know enough about all the different witnesses and what their reasons were for not attending and so on, but if a case can be made that witnesses could not attend because they were unable to come to this new earlier date, they had established, they had carved out their schedule for a later time and just couldn't possibly come any earlier. Why, that, it seems to me, would be a denial of due process on the part of the judge. Maybe now is the time to file a misconduct complaint with the, is it the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals there in Colorado?
Yes, it is the 10th Circuit.
So I would suggest that maybe that's a route to take if you can get affidavits together and make that claim. It's really unfortunate there was nothing on the record. That's really unfortunate.
Well, there you have it. And look, this gentleman, Mr. Goldsmith, is clear. Not knowing even everything that had happened, stated that a misconduct complaint should be filed against this judge. That's before habeas. That's before anything. That what he's referring to there is the fact that the case was, for the prosecution, finished a week and a half early. With that being done, the judge tried to rush completion and rush the defense to go forward. That's something that is a violation, as he stated, of due process. Dennis, your thoughts?
It just doesn't, to me, I understand, what he was saying, and it is true. I mean, you're gonna after the prosecution finishes early, you're gonna push the defendants, and you're gonna rush them to present their case to show that, in fact, that the whole case was a joke. But again, we're talking about a judge that is truly corrupt, truly biased, truly prejudiced. Because when you take the side of, you take a side, period, it's wrong all the way around. And as you can see, the results was now we're trying to rush to present. The defense is trying to rush to present what they want to present.
Well, the issue is that if the prosecution tells the judge that the case, they intend their side to be done, say, in 3 weeks, you get done a week and a half early. The defense has already said, okay, based on the prosecution statement, that the case will go this way. This is how much time they will need. And as Mr. Goldsmith said, then it's automatic that a continuance would be granted in the case where they can gather their witnesses, the defense now. Exactly. Gather their witnesses, say, look, we're going to call them, we're going to get something set up and let them know that this has happened, not to inconvenience the potential witnesses for the defense, because the prosecution at this point has put on their case. If you make an attempt to say, well, you either take the stand to testify, or I will end your case, you can't do that. You just can't.
No, you can't. And the majority of our witnesses were out of state. They were government employees. They just can't, on a whim, just leave their job and come and testify. They had to notify their bosses, and we had to tell the witnesses that were local. They also were working. We had to. So when off. Exactly. So when the government ended early, and we went through this exercise meticulously of schedules and dates before the court on when the government was supposed to be done, we had to tell her our timeline, but it was totally unfair and irregular for her to, when the government ended, we had no opportunity to say, well, now the schedule's changed. We have to let this trickle down to all the witnesses that potentially are going to testify. But then she suggests to us who we should put on the stand.
It's not her job.
It's not her job.
It's not her job.
No, you're absolutely right, Lamont. And I was just like reading the part one of this that press release, how it says that, like Kendra was mentioning, that yeah, they had several witnesses that were out of state. They had to try and adjust schedules, and she violated their Fifth Amendment rights by telling them to, hey, put somebody on the stand. You can't compel somebody to be a witness against themselves. You can't do it. It's against the law. This judge broke the law and violated these men's rights on so many different instances, and then conveniently now the transcript isn't complete. There's stories being made up left and right to try and justify this judge's actions, and the fact of the matter is like we've said time and again here, the higher courts need to come down on this judge, and rather than just make a statement, they need to have some bite behind what they're doing. They need to actually put feet to fire and make some things happen, not just let it be words, let it be action as well.
Well, the problem is that's why the belief in the system is what it is. It's deteriorating. But we as advocates have a job and a responsibility to call out injustice wherever we find it. So, you know what? Some people may not like it. It's not a problem. The problem is what you did.
That's true.
That is the problem. If I do my job, if I live with an ounce of integrity, and I hold up the oath that I took when I put that robe on, we wouldn't be having this discussion right now. There is no integrity in some of these judges. Right. I said this before, I'll say it again. They have a God complex. Some of them, let me be clear, some of them, a God complex that they are God. And what they say, it doesn't matter what they do, how they do it, they have a complex that I am untouchable. Not so. And as long as we breathe as advocates, we're going to hold you accountable. And every advocate out there, every person who believes in justice should not hesitate to call out the conduct of any judge, any prosecutor, any attorney that crosses the line of law. Because I guarantee you, we're going to have to answer if we do it.
That's right.
And in many cases in this country, if we don't do anything, we get locked up. How much more so? For blatant disregard for the law, should accountability be stuck to that? This is AJC Radio. We'll be right back.
Odds of becoming an astronaut, 1 in 13,200,000. Odds of being struck by lightning, 1 in 576,000. Odds of dating a supermodel, 1 in 88,000. Odds of bowling a perfect game, 1 in 11,500. Odds of being trapped in an elevator, 1 in 24,528. Odds of catching a ball at a major league game, 1 in 563. Odds of an injury from shaving, 1 in 6,585. Odds of tripping while texting, 1 in 10. Odds of getting cancer in your lifetime, 1 in 2 men, 1 in 3 women.
It's up to us.
To change the odds for our generation.
For the ones we love. For our future.
If you don't like the odds, stand up. Stand up to cancer.
I surrender.
All right, pal. Get ready for the day, buddy.
Hey, Dad. Hey, Dad. Do we have a gun?
What's that?
Do we have a gun?
Why do you ask that, kiddo?
Can I play with it?
No, absolutely not. It's not a toy. You know that.
Do I? I bet it looks like one.
Yeah, well, it's not. Anyway, I need it to protect you, your sister, and Mom.
From what?
From bad guys, like on TV.
But what about the 8 kids who get shot every day by mistake? Their daddies probably thought they were safe, too.
Where'd you hear that?
TV.
Yeah, well, maybe we don't believe everything we hear on TV.
Where do you keep it?
It's hidden.
I bet it's on the top shelf of the closet, under your sweatshirts. Is it loaded?
It's not. I keep the bullets.
In the boots with the red laces, and the chest beside the bed. I haven't found them yet, but I'm sure I can. You always told me to be curious. Remember when I found my Christmas gift? I'm a good climber, you know.
No, that's not what I meant. Look, I need to be ready if someone breaks in.
But what about when it's just me and Mom? You taught me to be brave. I could use a gun to protect her.
No, Justin, I promise. I'll teach you how to handle a gun when you're old enough.
And what if I don't make it to old enough? I could get bullied and decide it's too much for me. It would be so easy with our gun.
Our gun? No, buddy. My gun.
But it is our gun. In our home. Happens all the time.
I'll make sure that doesn't happen. I'm always here for you.
But Dad, you're not always here.
Clear skies tonight with a low near 70. Increasing cloudiness tomorrow, sticky and humid with a high of 56.
I wanted to be in the military since I was a kid.
I served in the United States Air Force.
I served a total of 16 years.
I was deployed 13 times. On my second deployment, 4 bombs hit my vehicle.
And at 19 years old, that's the first time I ever saw somebody die.
Coming back, I was raging.
I started having pretty horrible nightmares. I would wake up in the middle of the night, sweats.
I started drinking a lot.
I felt worthless.
I guess I never recognized it in myself.
Eventually, one day, I just walked into the VA hospital and said I'd like to see somebody.
Don't suffer alone. You got to find that link with somebody that'll make you let it go.
It all starts with going to the VA. There's a whole community of veterans that just want to help you out.
It's for the guys who couldn't come back, so you owe it to them to live well, because they're not here with their families.
I don't have to tell you about the challenges we face every day. That would be like preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
Today you have a chance to face the challenge of your risk for diabetes. My dad had diabetes, and 1 in 4 U.S. adults are at risk, myself included. If you're older than 45 or African American, that risk increases. So here's a chance to ask yourself, What can I do? Talk to your doctor about getting screened and know what your options are. Learn more at AskScreenKnow.com.
Good morning, students, and welcome to Career Day. I hope you're excited to hear about all the great things you can do when you grow up.
Hi, everyone. I'm Emily. I'm super excited to introduce my dad because he's my hero. When I was little, my dad was away a lot, but I was okay with that because he was doing this really important work, driving ambulances in Iraq. Now he's at home, which is great for me because I get to see him every day now. And he's still the biggest hero I know because he tells all the ambulances and the fire engines where to go and rescue people when there's an emergency. I'm so proud of him. He's awesome. He's my dad.
If your service-connected disability prevents you from continuing in your civilian career, Voc Rehab offers counseling, training with a living allowance, education, and other services to help prepare you for your next mission.
You're on your way to meet up with friends, but you can't seem to get anywhere quickly. You don't want your friends to be annoyed, so you text, "You're on your way." "5 seconds is the average time your eyes are off the road while texting while driving. Make sure you get where you're going.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to AJC Radio tonight as we continue to speak in regards to the conduct and actions of Christine Arguello, federal judge of the 10th Circuit here in Colorado. The horrific tragedy taking place in her courtroom from day one that 6 defendants walked into her court. She failed to display honor of the bench. The ramifications, the collateral damage of injustice suffered here, make no mistake about the cost that has come as a result of this judge. I have looked in the eyes of the men who suffered. At this point, 7 years without their families, without a Christmas, without a holiday. It is high time that we take a look at the cost of injustice. And perhaps that cost will be so felt and the outrage will become so clear that a judge would think twice to do it again. There's been a high price paid here. It's not something that we have talked about. We have lived it with the IRP 5. The untiring efforts of Colorado Springs Fellowship, 38 years of touching a community and an outreach where it hurt the most. 38 years of reaching to the homeless to say we care. This is the motto of Colorado Springs Fellowship Church, the price that has been paid to reach out in a community that's hurting. This is Colorado Springs Fellowship Church in Pastor Rose Banks, a church that decided to reach out to the local law enforcement, police department, sheriff's department, and to feed those servants of the law lunch and breakfast. It's a lot of people. You want to know about Colorado Springs Fellowship Church and its pastor, that reached out to the elderly and the senior citizens of their communities to let them know that someone cared. Colorado Springs Fellowship Church, Pastor Rose Banks, their outreach to veterans and to our military to say thank you for the price and the sacrifice that you give. Not in word only, but in actions demonstrated to them to know that someone cares. And for that to be under fire by a federal judge is despicable for any community. To have to endure that when you talk about a pillar of its community to help the hurting and those that can't find a way out, for you to opine on that institution and to attack it, you attack our community. It is unacceptable. William, your thoughts?
I think the thing about it is, that is sad, is that you would attack somebody, like you said, that reached out, has reached out, and would continue to reach out in this community to show love, demonstrations of love. The families that, like you pointed out, you robbed them. 7 years. 7 years we've lived this. Families, they've been harassed at the prison. They get to see that their families that one day, and then we've had situations go on, and it's just, and watch children grow, watch families, birthdays come, holidays come, and it's been hard. It's been very, very hard, and for someone to offer their opinion, offer their own bias in the courtroom when you should be standing there neutral, allowing the prosecution to put on their case and where the defense was not allowed to, and then for this habeas mess, it's sad. It's really, really sad, and people don't think about this, but the consequences of your actions when a person like that is put in that kind of position and they see that their power is absolute and they run around unchecked, and how they can destroy lives and take time from families and children and parents. That's hard. That's hard, man.
Well, let me say this, and I could not address Judge Arguello without addressing the loss of LaWanna Banks Clark. Whether you sleep at night or not, you are complicit in the death of LaWanna Banks Clark. The question is asked that LaWanna was under extreme pressure at the time of her death when that rupture happened. You, Judge Arguello, set this innocent woman with evidence of her innocence for 6 months out of the state of Colorado. A woman who never was in trouble with the law, worked as a church counselor, not a spot on her record, told the truth. You, Judge Arguello, are complicit in that pressure that ruptured in her brain. Live with that one. Because in your heart of hearts, you know that Ms. Clark was not guilty of anything. And when brought to your attention that a handwriting expert said, this is not the signature of LaWanna Banks Clark, which means your entire case is over, you refused to do the right thing and live by the integrity that should be at the bench. You sent her to prison anyway. You are complicit in the death of a human being. That is the biggest of tragedies of them all. will not remain silent. We will not cowardly out from speaking against this type of injustice. What other families are affected by the character of this judge? I can promise you, when you find this type of horrific conduct, it is not isolated. Someone needs to take a look into her court. I promise you, there has to be other victims of injustice. It's not just I woke up this morning and decided to administer injustice today. This is a pattern of abuse. So much so that the 10th Circuit said we have concerns about this judge. But on the other hand, simply walk away or turn a blind eye. Unacceptable. To our dear sister, I'll say it again. What role did you play, Judge Ogoyle? The death of LaWanna Banks Clark, who is only a little over a year removed from us. This is abuse of power. And I say to every advocate, to every group, to every judge that occupies the bench in every district, county, state Supreme Court, and the United States Supreme Court, who will stand up and honor the oath that was taken? Because I'm going to tell you right now, oath doesn't see your brothers or sisters in black. They see what the Constitution and what justice is. Do we have, and I know we have good judges out there, will somebody stand up and say this is wrong? I can tell you right now, I can't speak for any other group. I can't speak for any other organization. I can't speak for any other judge. You know in your heart who you are. But a just cause will never cease to speak. Our voice will not be silenced. And as long as injustice runs rampant in the land, a just cause will be there to fight. William, your closing thoughts.
You know, we have to take a stand for this. This level of injustice is absolutely incredible. And we have a responsibility to take a stand, inform those that may not be aware that such a thing would happen. It may be like us, you know, before all this took place, we would never have thought this would happen in a court of law. But we need to be aware, we need to be well informed and educated, and Just Cause will do just that.
Yeah, I think as advocates, we all need to get out there, and do our part. You know, those, like William was saying, those that may not be educated, those that may not be informed, or just may, inadvertently be turning a blind eye to the situation that is going on in this system of injustice. Like, it is our duty to not only inform them, but to tell as many people as possible and to incite change. Words are not enough anymore. It is going to take action, and the action of a collective group of people, concerned citizens, all the way up to the highest level. We can do our part here, but, we have to, as a people, rally together and say, look, we are not going to stand idly by and let these judges get in positions where they think that just because they put on a robe and have a bench to sit on, that they can dole out, unfair sentences and be biased or partial to one side of the case or the other. That's not justice.
No, and this isn't a black issue, a white issue, a red issue, a yellow issue. It's a people issue.
That's right.
People issue. And we stand against injustice. I don't care what color, what religion, where you come from. This type of behavior in any court cannot be tolerated. We'll see you next time. This is AJC Radio kicking off 2020 with a bang. Judges behaving badly. Abuse from the bitch continues when we come back. This is AJC Radio. For all of us here, good night and take care.
It's about the strangest thing this legal analyst has ever heard. I mean, especially, to me, the whole thing with not allowing experts to be called. I mean, that's just completely, in opposite to, what our rights are in a courtroom and the need to have experts in a courtroom on cases like this. But the fact of losing transcripts, and ironically, as my grandma would say, what a coinky-dink, what a coincidence, that the part that's missing deals with the Fifth Amendment violation where they're forced to testify. Isn't that the allegation? But it's not in there. I mean, I never hear of transcripts being lost, ever. And if there's a lack of a record, you've got some revenues, which is, you should reverse the case. There's not a record to review. I mean, that's part of it, too. But yet they haven't gotten that. And the fact is you don't dismiss an expert witness and tell the jury that they were not timely. I mean, that should have been decided way before the fact. You created the crime. I mean, in a lot of ways. I mean, basically, what preceded the crime, I mean, it's just they weren't able to be debt-free because of what you did. And by the way, the prosecutor should never leak that there might be an indictment. That's all. Grand jury proceedings are supposed to be confidential. But then they basically put the accused in harm's way and set him up to be convicted and to not have that income. It's just, one of the things is the prosecutor's job is to see that justice is done. Not to win at any cost, but to do justice. And that wasn't done here, that we know. I mean, we went to law school for years for this. Right. I've never, in the cases I've covered as an analyst, as a prosecutor or as a defense lawyer, ever seen a judge hold a pro se litigant to a higher standard, ever. I mean, and if they did, they wouldn't say it. Because that's going to be trouble on appeal, too, for the prosecution. You can't do that. I mean, because they can't be held to that standard. They're incapable of attaining that standard just by virtue of the lack of training. No, I was just going to say, just take a look at the Oscar Pistorius trial as an example. They've had delays over there all the time with witnesses that can't get there just because they don't quite judge the day right. Cases have empty afternoons. You see, courts recess. The fact is that you have to work around people's schedules. I mean, and especially when the prosecutor says I'm going to take 3 weeks, not, a week and a half or 3.5 weeks. That's ridiculous. No fault of their own. They're penalized again. And that just shows prejudice, too, on the part of the judge.